At 2:07 a.m., I was standing in my garage with a roll of cable in one hand and a stack of HOA violation notices in the other. 3 months earlier, I didn't even know what a lien was, and now I was one meeting away from having it slapped on my house. The wild part is none of this started with something big, just a trash bin and a woman named Diane West. My name's Michael Carter. I'm an engineer, pretty boring on paper. My wife Emily and I moved into Maplebrook Estates because it looked safe, clean, and honestly, normal. White fences, kids on scooters, sprinklers ticking like clocks, exactly what you picture when you hear nice suburb. Then you learn the neighborhood isn't run by vibes, it's run by the Homeowners Association, the HOA. And the HOA had a president who treated the rules like her personal weapon. I met Diane on day 10. A silver Lexus rolled up. She stepped out wearing a polo with the HOA logo, holding an iPad like it was a badge. She smiled at me like a receptionist who already knows you're getting bad news. "Welcome to Maplebrook," she said, "and I just want to address a few compliance issues." She didn't ask my name first. She pointed at my driveway. "Your vehicle is facing outward," she said, tapping her screen. "Section 7.3.2 requires residents to park nose in whenever possible." I laughed one quick breath because it sounded like a joke. Diane didn't. Then she nodded toward the side of my garage. "And the trash bin is visible from the street. You have 72 hours to correct it. After that, it's $50 per day." I stared at her, then at my bin, then back at her. "It's trash day," I said. "I'm literally taking it out." Diane's smile didn't move, but her voice did. "Rules protect property values. You'll learn. I'll email you the notice." And she did. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a PDF titled "Courtesy Warning," like she'd done me a favor. At first, I played along. I moved the bin. I parked differently. I trimmed things that didn't even need trimming. It didn't matter. Diane wasn't enforcing rules. She was collecting wins. 1 week later, she nailed me for hose storage not concealed. Another week, it was unauthorized seasonal decor because Emily hung a simple wreath in April. Then came the day I washed my car. Diane appeared like she'd been waiting behind a bush. "Driveway washing exceeds allowed duration," she said, filming me on her phone. "It creates runoff." I turned the hose off, water dripping down my wrist, and asked, "Are you serious right now?" She stepped closer and lowered her voice like we were in a courtroom. "I'm very serious, and if you raise your voice again, I'll document harassment." That's when I realized something ugly. There was no winning with her by being polite. Polite just meant quiet. The fines started stacking up fast. $50 here, $100 there, late fees on top processing fees that felt made up. I went to an HOA meeting thinking I could talk this out like an adult. The room had folding chairs, stale coffee, and a table of board members nodding along like Diane was the weather. She put my house on a slideshow. Not kidding, she projected photos of my driveway, my side yard, my porch, shot from different angles, different days like a detective board. "Resident Carter has shown a pattern of non-compliance," she said, clicking to the next photo. "We need to consider stronger enforcement." I felt my face heat up. My neighbors wouldn't look at me like guilt was contagious. After the meeting, a guy named Tom Bennett caught my arm in the hallway. "Don't poke her," he whispered. "She eats people alive with paperwork." I wanted to believe Tom was exaggerating. He wasn't. Over the next month, I started noticing Diane's Lexus cruising the street at weird times. Slow, deliberate. She'd stop, tap on her iPad, take a picture, move on. Sometimes she didn't even get out, just snapped photos through her window. Emily started tensing every time a car slowed down outside. My daughter Sophie asked why the mean lady kept staring at our house. I tried to keep it together, but the money was real. We burned through $2,000 in under 90 days. Then one afternoon I opened my mailbox and saw the words that made my stomach drop. "Notice of intent to lien." That's not a warning. That's a threat with teeth. I sat at my kitchen table with the paper flat under my palms like I could pin it down and make it stop. Emily read it twice, then quietly said, "Mike, what are we supposed to do?" I did what any stubborn person does when they're cornered. I went looking for the rule book. I read the bylaws, the covenants, the meeting minutes, the fine schedule. I emailed Diane asking for itemized records of my alleged violations and proof they followed their own process. Her reply was one sentence: "Request denied." When I pushed back politely in writing, she turned it into a new violation. The next day she showed up at my door phone, held up recording before I even opened it. "This is evidence," she announced. "You are harassing the board." I stood there barefoot, staring at my own front porch like it belonged to someone else. For a second I wondered if I'd made a mistake moving here at all, if fighting this was just going to cost more than it was worth. Not a dramatic movie-style crisis, more like that quiet, exhausted thought you have when you're out of options. The kind of thought that makes you look at a for sale sign and feel relief instead of shame. Emily didn't yell, didn't cry. She just said, "We can't keep living like we're waiting for her to show up." That sentence hit harder than any fine. Because she was right, this wasn't about the money anymore, it was about being hunted in our own home. So I changed tactics. I stopped trying to convince Diane. I started building a file. Every email, every notice, every timestamp. Every photo of my yard on the day she claimed it looked different. And I started talking quietly to other neighbors. Tom wasn't the only one with a story. A couple down the street had been fined for curtain color inconsistency. A single mom got hit for chalk drawings on common adjacent pavement after her kid's birthday. Then Tom told me something that made my ears ring. "They're trying to charge me $15,000, he said, voice shaking. "If I don't pay, they'll take the house." $15,000 doesn't happen from a trash bin. That's something else. I started checking public records like it was my second job. Foreclosures, ownership transfers, an LLC that kept popping up, Maplebrook Holdings, something buying homes right after residents got squeezed. And the registered agent name on the LLC wasn't Diane, but it was close enough to make my skin crawl. That's when Emily stepped in again, calm as ever. "Don't do anything impulsive," she said. "Don't give her a reason to paint you as the villain. Just be ready when she tries." 2 days later, the HOA sent a neighborhood-wide email, "Emergency meeting, community safety and enforcement. Attendance required." That's when I knew. Diane wasn't just coming after me, she was planning to do it in public. The meeting was packed. People who never showed up were there clutching envelopes like they'd been summoned to court. Diane stood at the front with her board members lined up beside her, smiling like she already had the ending written. A projector glowed behind her. She started with my name. "Residents have expressed concern," she said, voice syrupy, "especially regarding Mr. Carter's behavior and suspicious activity." The screen lit up with a grainy video, night footage, a figure in a hoodie near a utility panel by the clubhouse. Diane turned slowly to face the room. "This is unacceptable. This threatens all of us. I will be contacting law enforcement." She looked right at me when she said it like she was waiting for me to panic. My throat went dry. My hands wanted to shake, but I kept them still. I stood up and said, "If we're going to talk about threats, let's talk about the real one." Diane's smile tightened. "Sit down, Michael. You are out of order." I didn't sit. I held up a folder, thick-tabbed, boring-looking, the opposite of drama. "I have documentation of selective enforcement," I said. "I have proof you denied records requests you're legally required to provide. And I have public filings showing a pattern residents find into foreclosure homes bought by an LLC tied to people connected to this board." A murmur ran through the room like wind through dry leaves. Diane's voice sharpened. "That is defamation." Tom stood up beside me, eyes wide but steady. "They're doing it to me right now," he said. "Right now." An older man in the second row raised his hand and said, "My neighbor lost his house last year. We thought it was just violations." Diane snapped, "This meeting is adjourned." She reached for the remote like she could turn reality off. And that's when the doors opened. 2 officers walked in with someone in plain clothes holding a folder and a badge. The room went dead quiet. The plainclothes investigator spoke clearly. Not loud, just sure. "Diane West." He said, "We have an order to collect financial records related to the Homeowners Association. You will come with us to answer questions regarding alleged fraud and improper property acquisition." Diane blinked like she didn't understand English anymore. This is ridiculous," she said, trying to laugh. "This is a neighborhood matter." The investigator didn't react. He just repeated her name, and one of the officers stepped closer. Diane's face flushed, and for the first time the mask slipped. She turned toward me, eyes hard, and hissed, "You did this." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The whole room saw it, the real Diane, not the property values version. Just power losing its grip. They walked her out past the folding chairs, past the stunned board members, past the projector, still showing that grainy video like it belonged to a different story. The door shut behind her with a soft click that sounded louder than it should have. And in that moment, standing in a room full of people who finally understood what was happening, I felt the weight lift, not like victory, not like celebration, just the quiet return of control. Lesson learned: rules don't protect a community when one person gets to use them like a weapon.